Ignore the cameras, but something say that's not right, stop, start again. We're not going to make you look bad, I promise you. You ready?
I don't know. Can I rely on that promise?
Absolutely. Like I said, you can trust me. I'm a weatherman. All right. Name, rank, and serial number so they have it at home.
Ted Kennedy Jr. I'm the state senator for the 12th district.
Interesting article that we read a couple days ago. You've got some proposals that, after realizing after 2015 that, what is it with the state parks? Is it people down? Is it revenue down? What is it?
Well, our state parks are in a crisis. Anyone who's come to a state park in the last several years knows that we need to increase funding. We need to develop more resources to our state parks across the state. They're an incredible asset that we have. However, they're constantly on the chopping block whenever we get to the budget cutting season. And so, as the Senate Chair of the Environment Committee, we're charged with coming up with some fresh ideas about what we can do to try to develop sustainable funding streams for these state parks.
We'll get to that in just a second. Is there something in the state parks of Connecticut that is lacking compared to nearby states and state parks?
Well, we have a unique feature in Connecticut where 100% of the revenue that state parks receive come from the general fund. Many other states have either a combination of general fund revenue and other revenue that is a dedicated source of funding for our state parks. Other states don't rely on general fund revenue at all. So I think the time has come to explore what other states have been doing to try to support their state parks. We're not alone in the crisis that we have in our state park system.
So what you're basically saying is, the money that gets spent at the state parks relies solely on what comes into the state parks in terms of the average carload of folks, or?
Well, the gate revenue for our state parks only covers about 40% of the total budget for our state parks. So we need to try to figure out, we can't have a situation where year after year we have funding cut from our state parks. We need to come up with some creative solutions. And what I'm interested in doing is trying to find out what are those creative solutions. What are the things that other states are doing to try to make our state parks more of a destination, to try to improve amenities at our state parks. I came up with a proposal last year to impose a 5-cent fee on single-use plastic bags and have part of that money be dedicated to our state parks. And other environmental assets like they do in the District of Columbia and many other places around the country.
There have been some creative idea, or I don't know how off kilter they are, but you're trying anything. Premium parking, better spots for campers, stuff like that.
Well, look, there are some people who've proposed premium parking. People pay more for a guaranteed parking spot. That might not be on the top of my suggestions, but again, I believe that everything needs to be on the table, every idea. We can't just dismiss an idea because it may come from a Republican on the committee or anybody else for that matter. I think we have to come up and try to sort this out using a collaborative approach and a common sense approach.
Final question, two-shot. So, worst case scenario, what are we looking at? The shutdown of parks?
Well, Governor Malloy last June cut $2 million from the $18 million state park budget. Now, the General Assembly restored that $2 million, all except $100,000, right? So by and large, we restored that, but we can't be doing this year after year after year, where we have to plead with the state legislature to try to fund these state parks when we have so many other needs. So we need to figure out a way to develop revenue streams that these state parks can maybe not offset the total budget of state parks, but provide a cushion.
You want that dance to stop?
I want that dance to stop. I want to try to identify some dedicated revenue streams that have been done in other states around the country, so that our state foresters, our state parks, the assets, the structural assets, and the things like basic services like trash collection, being able to use the bathroom. Did you know that under the previous budget last June, we didn't even have budget for toilet paper at our state parks? Okay, this is the type of crisis that we're in our state. And I feel that part of my role as the Senate Chair of the Environment Committee is I'm charged with trying to come up with some creative ideas about how we can continue to sustain what I think are incredible environmental assets for our state.
We have plenty. Thanks for
All
your
right.
time. Appreciate it. Do you want to shot just us talking for B-roll?
I can get another one. Sure.
Hand that to you. The first
Look
one.
at this, Paul. Paul, are you recording
This
this?
is all gonna end up on the
Oh
independent
my
website.
God.
No, I mean, it's, you sit there and you think, man, okay, all right, so what are other parks doing? How much are they charging me on, when I take my kids and we go to Vermont, it's charging them some things, or what's the cost of, to go clamming in Rhode Island, so what, where's the
Well,
common variable?
it's interesting because I've looked at California, Arizona, there's probably been about 5 or 6 states in the last probably 3 or 4 years that have undertaken a comprehensive analysis of their state parks. And again, Connecticut is not alone. These state parks around the country have the same problem that we have
Are
here
there
in
more
the
states
state.
like Connecticut, or are there more states that are doing okay?
Well, we're one of the very few states that relies exclusively on general fund revenues, okay? So there's other states that allow the parks to keep more of the revenues that they collect in these parks. We have incredible friends groups here in the state. If a park, some people have said, well, should we have, corporations be able to name some? Now, that would not be my first choice, honestly, but other states have done that, and I think that at least we should know, okay, here's the 5 different options, and let's hear all the arguments for and against, and then say, okay, now we're going to pick this one. So that's kind of my view on this whole
And just
thing.
quickly, so I have this correct.
Yeah.
The general fund means,
General fund means the basic fund that we have in our state. Okay, so we're at the whim of the budget process year after year after year, and other states are not.
so we don't rely on the money that goes in the door, or say at Hammonasset.
All that money goes into the general fund. So Hammonasset Park doesn't keep any of that money.
Right.
Now, there are some parks like Hammonasset that are the most popular. Shorewood Island, Hammonasset, Rocky Neck. There's some parks that are
Do well.
that do well,
Right.
that do well, and
Check.
they cross subsidize obviously
Sheffield
the
Hollow
other
isn't getting
exactly
anything. Okay.
exactly. But for example, if a corporation did want to make a donation to a state park, there's no 501c3, for example, that could be the recipient. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Now, there are other people who are looking to expand the concessions in our state parks, which the food service and other, getting a good cup of coffee or getting, canoe rentals, kayaks, I mean, all these different types of things. In other states, they have, you have Starbucks in your state park. Now, I'm not saying we should or we shouldn't have, but at least,
let's discuss.
okay, how much would Starbucks actually pay to have a store in Hammonasset? We don't know the answer to that question right now because we've never actually explored that. Turns out they may be willing to pay $100,000 a year. I don't know whether don't hold me to that. I don't know whether the figure would be 25, 50, 100. We don't know because we haven't even explored those other options.
Okay.
So,
What's the timetable?
well, we passed a law last year that asked the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection to come back with, they were supposed to issue an RFP to any vendors, in essence, who had an idea about the state parks. Because I'm sitting there in the conference room of the Environment Committee, and I'm like, how am I supposed to be able to figure out, what people are willing to pay for, how to increase revenues? This is the first time in essence, I've even thought about this. So let's put out an RFP, and there are places in California and Texas and Idaho, Montana, who have, you know, people who've come in and said, look, we're willing to provide this. So let's just piggyback on all the thinking that they've already done that have been successful in these other places, and let's see what they would come up with. So they're supposed to come back with that report. I don't know, Dan, what is that
I think
report?
it was supposed to be back this year. And if not this
They're
year,
supposed to come back with that report, I think sometime in mid-February,
Okay.
okay? So now we may turn out that nobody has responded to an RFP, okay? So maybe that's good information to them,
Right.
you know? But again, that's one of the things that we're trying to do, is
Okay.
to try to come up with that.
Good. Thank you for your.
Thank you.
Appreciate
You're
it.
wel-
More
you're
than you
welcome.
know.